Here's some help with cookies day one. The beginning of this problem is sort of long, and we have to sort through this information and pull out the key ideas. So it talks about amount of cookie dough that we need to make each cookie. And it says that we need 1 pound for each dozen of the plain, and we also need 0.7 pound for each of the iced cookie, and they have 110 pounds total of cookie dough. Those are all numbers that are related to each other. Then there's also numbers having to do with icing here. There's obviously no icing for the plain cookies, and there's 0.4 pounds of icing for each dozen of the iced, and there's 32 pounds of icing total. And then there's also information about the amount of time that these cookies take to make. It says 0.1 hour of prep time for each plain cookie and 0.15 hours of prep time for each iced one. And it says that there's 15 hours for cookie preparation. And they also tell me that I can sell all the donuts that I make, but I only have room for 140 dozen in my oven. So these are the restrictions that I have, and the next part of the problem, or the first part of the problem, asks me to just think about different combinations that could work based on this information. So ultimately, the end result of this is to figure out how many dozen of each cookie we should make so that we get the most profit. But that's not what we're asked to do here. We're just asked to find two combinations that satisfy all the conditions in the problem. And really, if I think about 1 dozen plain and 2 dozen iced, that would fit with all of the conditions that I have. Because if I make 1 dozen plain, that's 1 pound of cookie dough. 2 dozen of ice, that's 1.4 pounds. So I have a total of 2.4 pounds of cookie dough. That's definitely less than the 110. And I made 2 pounds of ice cookies, or 2 dozen of ice cookies. So that's 0.8 pounds of icing. That's less than the 32 pounds. And 3 dozen is definitely less than 140. And if I look at the prep time, I fall underneath this time restriction as well. So all this is asking you to do down at the bottom is asking you to consider different combinations that do work with these constraints that we have, these conditions in the problem. And then for 2, we have to figure out our profit. And if we look up here, we're given some information about money. It tells us how much it costs to make and how much we're going to sell them for. So the plain cookies, we make a profit of $1.50. So for my point that I picked, $1.50 times 1 dozen plus the iced cookies make a profit of $2, and I sold 2 dozen of them for a profit of $7. Probably not going to be what maximizes my profit, but this is what the problem was asking us to do. Now for number 3, you have to fill in these blanks from the information that I highlighted on the very first slide. And in day 2, you'll get answers to what these numbers are supposed to be. In number 4, you're supposed to make a graph. And all you're supposed to do are graph 10 points that work within these constraints. So it's expanding on number 1. And then you're also supposed to graph 10 points in another color that don't work with these constraints. So combinations of dozens that don't work, that we're not allowed to make. And if it helps you to graph the constraints, you can, but you don't have to. All you're doing is plotting 20 points on your graph paper. That should help with day 1. If you need help with day 2, watch that video also.